So this is another paid video, and so I'm going to read the questions first before I respond. Good morning, sir. I need your opinion, recommendation on an issue I have with my Peugeot 607 V6 manual. So my car has been on this loss of power issue. When I start it now, it will run normal, even though not as strong as it used to, until when the engine reaches 90 degrees temperature and my ignition coils start to go off. For what I see, I think it shuts off two coils one after the other, causing severe loss of power, and continues like that throughout the trip, making a misfire sound, sometimes backfiring. What I've done so far is change coils, the ones affected by the power loss when hot. Worked for one day and the issue came back. I don't know if the coils I got or have are weak. That's why they stopped working at high temperature. I also cleaned the injectors, changed plugs severally, and the issue still lingers. So basically, can't drive the car past 4 kilometers, and it will start that and have me very sluggish on the road. When I off the car and on it back, it briefly comes back full power for less than a minute and goes again and stutters, misfires, and sounds like a restart engine, giving that sounds. Okay, um, for a start, I would say I believe your engine is ES9J4S, since you say it's a 607 V6 manual. So I will assume it's a factory manual of phase 1, unless it's a phase 2 converted to manual. In that case, that would be ES9A. Notwithstanding, both behave how the diagnosis is going to be the same, or symptoms of issues are the same with the two engines. Okay, so um when like I've done in most of the videos, the ES9J4S and ES9A have a weakness, and that's one of them. They have weaknesses, and one of the weaknesses misfire, engine misfire, which can actually be prevented in most cases. So when I mean weakness, I mean some conditions that will cause misfire on this engine will not cause misfire on the other engines. So that's what I mean. It's not like it has a factory issue. No, just that there are some things that you could use that could not cause misfire on EW engines, but will do that on ES engines. In other words, V6. So the first approach or first step to take is to scan the vehicle with PP2000, not with any other scan tool. I don't care how expensive this diagnostic tool is. Use PP2000 when it comes to Peugeot if you are having a severe issue like this. Now, I've done video. I think I explained why one should use PP2000 on the video chat we had at the TLC group in Telegram. Maybe I've not published that video on my YouTube channel. One of these days I'll try and do it. So I don't want to waste time going on that. So you have to wait until you watch that video, or you join the Telegram group and listen to that, or the audio of that video. Okay, so After because when you the reason why I say start with scanning is scanning the very engine ECU will first tell you which cylinders are causing this misfire. So all these things you explained is just misfire. I know how that engine behaves. Whatever symptom is giving you is just a misfire. So everything you said here is simply pointing at that the ES engine is misfiring. So scanning the vehicle will tell you which cylinders. One thing about that engine is, or that injection system is, usually once it starts, it will focus on one or two cylinders that are causing that misfire. So it's now up to you to know which cylinder is doing that, so I'll be able to you focus on that particular cylinder, whatever that is there, and then rule those things out. So it didn't say whether you did the scan or you are just acting on assumption, like changing everything there. So um so let's assume you scan the car. Okay, let's just say going forward, when you scan the vehicle, find out which cylinder that is causing it. When you do, so what the next first thing to do is remove that particular cylinder fuel injector and service the injector. If it's one or two, you may use the opportunity and service the entire fuel injectors. Now, when it comes to VCs, this is another point most people or technicians don't know how to do. When it comes to this ES9 engine, most mechanics, they don't know how to flush or service that fuel injector. You have to back flush it. You have to back flush it. If you don't back flush it, you are probably wasting your time. Now, most technicians, they will just do it, just put what's it called, carburetor cleaner, and blow through it. Sometimes they will even blow it. They will just clean off the surface where that nozzle is, the part of the injector that is inserted inside the intake manifold, and they expect that everything has been done, the services have been done. No, you have to blow first. I first do back flush before I do front flush. I did a video how to do it. Go to my YouTube channel. That was like 2, 3, I don't know, maybe is it 2 years, either 2 years ago or 2 years, 3 years ago, whichever one. So you have to go to see how to service ES, especially ES9J4S fuel injector. So you apply that same method. If there is any way, if it doesn't, display pattern is not as good as the others, then you have to change that particular injector. Okay, so that's number one. This is one of the things that can cause the misfire, the issue you are having, dirty fuel injectors. So that is one. Now number two is your spark plugs. That engine uses platinum spark plugs. So what I've observed sometimes is, if there is a moisture, or I would say maybe like over time, the spark plug, the part of the plug that is inserted inside the ignition coil, the part that is inserted inside the ignition coil, from my experience, every once in a while, use sandpaper and brush that particular place. Remove the spark plugs, get sandpaper, rough or smooth, whichever one, brush that particular place. I believe you know what spark plug looks like from what you said. I think you do. So one part of the plug goes into the what's it called, the cylinder head, while the other side, the one that goes into the cylinder head, is the electro gap side, while the other side is facing upwards, where the ignition coil goes onto it. So that's the part you need to clean. Also, I could use the word sandpaper those parts, all of them. Don't, but at least you use the opportunity to do all of them. But at least when you scan, you know the cylinder that is causing it, and focus more on that cylinder. In fact, what I usually do is when that happens, I will swap the ignition coil, the plugs, swap them. The ones, if let's assume if the scan tool is pointing at the cylinders behind, then you bring those spark plugs forward and take the ones in front backward to the back, so that if the issue persists, you know, okay, you don't have to remove the intake manifold anymore. You just change those plugs in the front. So spark plug can cause misfire on the ES9 engine, ES9J4S, ES9A, based on the symptom you described. That's what they usually do. So it doesn't mean the spark plugs have failed, but like I said, you have to sandpaper that place, even if they are brand new. I usually do it, whether new or not, do it. Another thing is, still on this spark plug, you need to be sure that the electro gap is the recommended. For that engine, Peugeot recommended 1 mm. So you also need to be sure. It could take 0.9 mm, but anything below that or above that, that's okay. Not above that, anything beyond that, below the 0.9 mm, you are looking for 12. But I always keep it to factory, which is 1 mm. So you need to also make sure those spark plugs are gapped to factory, the electro gap. Now the second point is, the third point is ignition coil, which most times are not the cause, but yeah, they can do this. They can also cause this type of symptom, where you said when the temperature of the car goes high, then it start behaving that way. What I'll tell you is, go to my videos. There was one video I published. The video was actually made by someone else, a 607 V6 user, and the person sent me the video, asked me to publish, and so that other 607 users will learn, or at least ES engine users will be able to learn from that video. So if you go to my video, you see one I published about, I don't know, I've forgotten the title, whether it was specific on 607 V6 or just the engine model. Something about how to cure misfire issue on a Peugeot 607. Maybe if I find the link of that video, I'll send it to you. Now the ignition coil, let's assume you scan the vehicle and it says ignition coil 4 bad. Now cylinder 4 is behind, it's under the intake manifold. So what you do is you bring it forward. Like I said, it's not just you bring up the spark plugs, then the ignition coil of that particular cylinder, you swap it, put it in the front with the ignition spark plugs, and then take one of the ones that the scanner did not report as faulty in the front, take it back to the whichever one or two that reported bad. So when you bring it forward, now depending on the type of ignition coil, there are like 2 different types. One is detachable. That's one is actually 2 components joined together. They design it to be like 2 components joined together. While another type of this ignition coil is complete unit. However, there is a solenoid, a rubber part, withstanding on it. So your focus should be on that rubber part. In fact, when you watch that video, you understand. So this is more like to rule out that the coil is not the cause. You see how the person use a sellotape, masking tape, depending on the one you have access to. But from that video, you could see this the masking tape works better. So get your hands on masking tape and cover up that area that was pointed out on the video, and then put and use the vehicle, see if that issue comes back. If it comes back, scan to know if the issue is on that same cylinder that's reported bad before, or reported as that was causing the misfire, which you have already put a ignition coil that the system showed that was working. So if issue comes back to that same cylinder, you know that your problem is not ignition coil. If the issue goes away, you know that okay, that it's likely the ignition coil is the problem, but that's sellotape work you did on it has been able to fix the problem, at least temporarily, or could use it that way for good, as long as that sellotape stays there. When you watch that video, you understand. So these are the things. If I were you, wouldn't all those money you wasted changing coil, doing this, doing that, you should have done. These are the things you should have done without spending a couple or a dime. That's why I say you apply elimination method by starting with the least. You want to spend the least, not spend where you spend so much buying parts. Start with the parts of the components or the system that you won't even spend any money. So that is one for ignition coil, because the reason why I'm saying I'm not suspecting ignition coil is that if it's the one with the top that has top color, the top of it is white color, they hardly fail, especially the ones with Davy brand. They also have value. These coils, they hardly fail. So replacing them all the time whenever a misfire happens, to me is like a waste of money. Yeah, it could fail. Once in a while you see one that has an issue, but doesn't mean, you could use yours for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, that particular ignition coil. So it doesn't mean it's faulty if a misfire is coming from that particular cylinder. You have to rule out, because there are so many things that work with each cylinder. So you have to identify, rule them out one after the other. Okay, so that is for the coil. Now the second point is fuel, bad fuel. No, is it the fourth? The fourth point is bad fuel. ES engine, especially ES9J4S and ES9A, they don't work with all type of fuels. That's one thing users, I know I've done so many videos on that. You have to be selective when it comes to fuel that engine works with. Or I could say the injection system of that vehicle or that engine. They are so, I've done videos on this, so I don't want to waste so much time already. These are things, just go through some of them. So, but the point is, be mindful of where you buy fuel. Now, one of the petrol station in Nigeria, or fuel, or let's say marketer also, that works, their fuels so far works well with this engine is the Total filling stations. Their fuel is good enough for me for that engine, compared to most other filling stations that you buy fuel and the engine start acting erratically. So avoid. There could be other brands that are also, companies that their fuel is also good or even better than that of Total. But for now, I don't even bother to risk it to do that experiment, because you have to experiment. If it works, then you will note it. But for now, Total works best for me. I can understand that now that there is a fuel scarcity in the country, so you probably may not even have any choice. But normal circumstances, I don't buy fuel from any other station if not Total. As far as those engines are concerned, I've been using, see, when it comes to ES engine, how many, how many of them do I have? How many years have I been using these engines? So you need to understand, I'm well experienced on this your engine. So I can tell you, bad fuel will mess up the engine, proper run of the engine. I will be getting this misfire issue. They don't like any type of fuel. So just because other people are watching a particular station because their pumps are maybe higher, their quantity seems to be higher than the other. But what you are using is not any type of engine or even vehicle. So quality should be your priority, even if their pump is not as good as yeah, but that's the price you have to pay. Look for high good company that sells quality fuel. Total may not even have the best. I'm not saying their fuel is the best in the whole country, not to think of the whole world. But like I said, this specifically for your engine, they work better than other ones I've tried. So I'm not going to mention other ones that I've used and realized was a big mistake. So if you want to avoid constant misfire on that engine, avoid buying fuel anyhow, look for quality or company that sells something better and use. One of them is Total. You can try other brands, it's up to you. So bad fuel will cause this misfire on ES9J4S and ES9A engines. Now, another thing, this is like 6 point. The reason why I also pointed out you scan the vehicle is if the scanner is showing that a particular one or two cylinder is causing this, it means after you must have ruled out your fuel injectors, your spark plugs, and the issue and then ignition coils, the issue continues, then you are likely looking at bad engine wiring harness. It's most likely there's a problem on the harness that connects these components I mentioned with the engine ECU and the fuse box. So these are things you need to find out. Scan the vehicle. If it's pointing out those things, rule those other things out. If it continues, then you focus on the next step will be your wiring harness. Now there are two big connector on that engine, connectors. On the bank one, the cylinder head that is facing the radiator. It's not actually a two, it's not two connector, just one, male and female. So most times, when people disconnect it while plugging it back, that thing can break. I don't always like going to that particular connector because of the how hot that engine can get. So over time, the connector starts cracking. So if you touch it, it could break, and it has about, I think, 14 wiring pins inside. I think 14, either 14 or 15 mass. It's not up to it's not more than 15. So I know it has like 15 holes. So one of them, there won't be any wire there. There won't be any pin or wire or something or plug. So one will be empty, the rest like 14 will be there. So the issue usually comes from there, because when they break and crack, they start touching each other. Those pins will start touching each other. So you need to carefully unplug that connector, confirm that everything that is still intact and they are not touching each other. And then while you are inserting it, make sure that they actually enter fully. Sometimes when you do it, you use your fingers and press. There's a blue part of that connector that is inside the bigger cover. You press that blue one behind where the rubber boot is. Press it so that it goes in fully to contact each other very well. So the wiring harness can be the cause. The other cases where it's not even that connector, the other side of the harness where people do a lot of butchering, cutting and joining, which will mess up the flow of current to the coils and the rest. So you also need someone to inspect that particular wiring harness to know how good it is, or the connector. So like I said, if you scan the vehicle, you'll be able to tell which cylinder. So if it's saying cylinder 1 or cylinder 2, then you focus on that cylinder, check the harness that goes to the coil and the fuel injector. Those wires. You are looking at 4 wires here. So that is for the wiring harness. Now the final thing that will cause this type of thing is the engine ECU. The engine ECU can cause it, but I doubt in your case. I doubt if that's the issue in your case. So, but yeah, bad abuse on the vehicle wiring harness can damage the engine ECU and start making it to misfire. But like I said, I wouldn't worry about the engine ECU, but I also need to point it out to know it could also be a cause. So personally, if I were you, I'll just focus on the first 5 or thereabouts. I pointed out, that is dirty fuel injectors can cause it. Spark plugs, clean or sandpaper the upper part, the side that goes into the ignition coil, sandpaper all of them. You see when you remove the spark plug, you see the upper part is metal or like a chrome or something. So use it to wipe it very well before you insert it into the coil, or put it back into the cylinder head and put the ignition coil. Then for the ignition coil, watch that video, see how they did the taping. The guy did that thing, so taped every one of them, and which if I was having basically the same symptom when the what's it called, temperature goes high, the misfire starts. But as soon as he did it, it stops. So you may have to do it on all the cylinder, or at least when you scan, if you tell you a particular cylinder, then you do it on that coil, see if it goes away. Then fuel as well. Be mindful, because all these things, see, that engine doesn't like excess carbon. So bad fuel will clog the entire what's it called, combustion chamber and your valves with carbons. So they affect your engine, proper running of the engine or the combustion. So you have to look for it may take a while for the carbon, even if it may not reduce, but at least you reduce that you may not be able to remove the carbon completely, but at least it will reduce the accumulation of those carbons. There are other things, there are ways you can remove those carbons, which I've talked about, like using some of these solvents that deals with carbon removal, removing cylinder head, depending, but all what you need now is to stop it from accumulating, or at least reduce the accumulation by using good quality fuel, or ones that's better than the others. I pointed out total fuels for me appears to be the best or one of the best for ES engines in Nigeria. Um, so that then the wiring harness, check all the connectors to be sure that none of them was uh, connected wrongly, and they all enter into the ignition coil very well, the fuel injectors very well. That socket, the connector on the bank one, check, make sure that none of those pins or wires are touching each other and the rest. That's where your problem lies. Like I say, all these things I say, if you had contacted me earlier, you wouldn't have spent money replacing anything. If you have done, if you do all these things, you will find the solution. Your problem will be solved. You know, like I said, this is how many decades I've been using this thing, so there's nothing you can tell me I wouldn't know about thank you. I hope this helps. The best I can do, another thing I could do is if I find that link of the video where the guy explained how to use that sellotape to tape the ignition coil, I will send you the link. Okay, so that's all.